hele goedemiddag, a very good afternoon to you all, and welcome to another episode of Let's Speak Dutch with Louisa. Like we do every week, we learn something new about the Dutch language, some things we learn how to pronounce, and some things to we learn the right spelling of it. Like I said last week, this week we're going to learn about how to apply for a volunteer's job. So if you're someone that is staying at home, don't have any work to do, even if you have any work to do and you have some free time and want to apply for a volunteer's job, today we are going to talk about how to apply for a volunteer's job. Dus vandaag gaan we het hebben over vrijwilligerswerk. Vrijwilligerswerk. Hoe kan je je aanmelden voor vrijwilligerswerk? Hoe moet je het formulier invullen? Wat zijn sommige vragen die zij stellen als je gaat aanmelden voor vrijwilligerswerk? Dus ik hoop dat iedereen zijn pen en papier heeft gepakt en luistert naar Let's Speak Dutch met Louisa at wordfm@ghanatoday.com. Nogmaals een hele goede middag iedereen en welkom bij Let's Speak Dutch met Louisa. Last week we did a small exams with Justice and Vincent here, and that was based on everything that we have been learning so far. And as I promised last week, today we are going to learn how to apply for a volunteer's job, een vrijwilligerswerk. Especially in this country, when you're at home and you're not working, or even when you're working some few hours and you have a lot of time left, they mostly suggest that you do volunteer job or vrijwilligerswerk. So what are some of the things that you can do to apply for a volunteer's job? Sometimes they make it mandatory, sometimes it can be of your own free will to apply for a volunteer's job. So when you're applying for a volunteer's job, the first thing you have to do is know where to look for it. Know where to look for a volunteer's job. Volunteer's job you can do in a lot of places, like maybe the school of your kids. You can also do it at an elderly home. You can do volunteer's job at your church. You can do volunteer's job in your neighborhood center, so een buurthuis of je kerk, your church, de school for your kids, your child's school. There's so many places where you can do volunteer's job. But the whole thing is that you have to know where to look for. You can know this by going by the organization. So for example, going by the school, going by your kerk, your church, or going by your neighborhood center, the buurthuis, to ask if they have any volunteers job left. But you can also look online. Je kan ook online kijken of je daar vrijwilligerswerk kan vinden. So when you're searching online, you have to type in vrijwilligerswerk and then you add the place where you live. So for example, vrijwilligerswerk Den Haag, and then it shows you all the volunteers job that are available here in The Hague. So vrijwilligerswerk Den Haag, and then it shows you all the available volunteers job in The Hague. But like I said, if you know someone or if you know an institution or an organization that meet people voor volunteer jobs, kan je ook zelf daar naartoe gaan en je daar aanmelden voor vrijwilligerswerk. So, for example, if you don't know anyone or any institution, you go online and you find some. What are the next steps that you can take? So if you don't know anyone or any institution where you can do volunteer job and you have to look for it yourself and you find some online, then most of the time you have to fill out a form. Normaal moet je een formulier invullen en in die formulier ga je kort uitleggen wie je bent en wat je kan. So normally when you do it online, but also mostly when you know someone, you have to apply for that position of a volunteer's job, there is definitely a form that needs to be filled out. And that form differs per company, but of course there are some things that are similar everywhere you go. So mostly it differs per company, but there are also a lot of similarities to it. For example, a volunteer's form, for those that are watching me live on Facebook, I can show you one example of how such a form looks like. It looks a bit like this. I don't know if you can see it well, but that is how the volunteer jobs form looks like. It's just like any other regular form that you get, whereby you can just write down some details about yourself. So this is how the form looks like. I don't know if you can see it well, but this is how some of the forms looks like. Like I said, it can differ per company, per institution, per place, how the form looks like, but there are some basic requirements everywhere. So what are some of the things that you can see on the form? I'll say it in Dutch, but I'll also explain it in the English language as well. So you have voornaam. Voornaam, which is your name. So for example, my voornaam is Louisa. So your name is Louisa. Your voornaam is just simply your name. Dat is jouw voornaam. And then you have achternaam. Achternaam is your surname. Achternaam is your surname, which is, let's say, your mother or your father's name. At least if you're not married yet, if you're married and maybe you have your husband's name, then it's your husband's surname. But if you're not married yet, mostly it's your mother or your father's name. So you have your voornaam. So mine, for example, is Louisa. And then you have your achternaam, which can be Owusu, for example. So your voornaam, Louisa, and your achternaam is bijvoorbeeld Owusu. Yes. And then you have your address. So address is just basically like in English, your address. Address is your address. So there you state where you live. So which street, your house number, and also your postal code and your place. So let's say, for example, we live here in The Hague, and then the address will be, for example, Galansplein number 21. So Galansplein number 21, and then the postal code will be 2513 CD. 2513 CD in Den Haag. So the woonplaats is the place where you live. That is woonplaats, and it can be Den Haag, Amsterdam, Haarlem, Arnhem, depending on where you live. And then they ask for your telephone number. Telephone number, so that is your telephone number. You know, some things sound a bit like Dutch, so it'll be easier to recognize on, sorry, it sounds a bit like English, so it'll be easier to recognize on the forms, but some things that are a bit more difficult to, I can understand that it'll be a bit hard to find out what it is, but that is why I'm here to help with the translation. So you have voornaam, achternaam, adres, en dan woonplaats / postcode, telefoonnummer, and that is where you write your telephone number. They mostly also ask for your email address, because a lot of things nowadays goes digitally. They prefer sending you an email than sending you a letter at home. So through the email address, they can send you all the necessary information that you need to know about the place where you are going to watch. We have a Tefwama for Albert, who said that he is watching us. Well, thank you very much for tuning into Let's Speak Dutch with Louisa. So you have voornaam, achternaam, adres, postcode, woonplaats en telefoonnummer, maar ook je e-mailadres. So I think a lot of us nowadays have an email address. Back then, majority didn't have an email address, but now a lot of people have an email address. So just fill out your email address and then they can send you all the necessary information about de vrijwilligerswerk die je daar gaat doen. Ze vragen ook naar je geboortedatum. Geboortedatum is your date of birth. Geboorte is birth, datum is date. So your date of birth is your geboortedatum. And then you also have a section whereby they ask voor de hoogst genoten opleiding. Hoogst genoten opleiding. So hoogst genoten opleiding is your highest education. Your highest education. So let's say if you only finished primary school, then primary school is your highest education. If you finished junior high school, then junior high school is your highest education. High school, university, college. So whatever highest education you have completed, that is where you feel at hoogst genoten opleiding. So opleiding is your education or a course that you have done. Opleiding, which is the education that you have done. To school aqua drew. En dan je hoogst genoten opleiding. To school aqua drew. En dan je hoogst genoten opleiding. So once again, when you get a form to fill out for a volunteer's job that you would want to apply for, sometimes because you are forced to do so because you're not working, you're at home, sometimes too because you have a few hours and you have to work a bit of volunteer job attached to it. So how can you then apply for a volunteer job? Hoe kan je aanmelden voor een vrijwilligerswerk? Like I already said, volunteers jobs can be through your own personal contact. Dus als je iemand kent van je kind school, van kerk, van de buurthuis en je wilt vrijwilligerswerk gaan doen, dan kan je naar diegene toe gaan en vragen: hey, hebben jullie vrijwilligerswerk? Kan ik hier komen werken? You can just ask the person, do you guys have volunteer job here? Can I come and work here? So mostly if there is volunteers job, they will just tell you yes, and then they'll give you a form to fill out because they need some information about you. They need some details about you to know whether you are fit for the job. So for that, the form that they give you, that is the things that I stated that can be on the form. You can also look for volunteers job through the internet. So when you just go online, wanneer je online gaat, dan typ je in vrijwilligerswerk. Vrijwilligerswerk, and then you add the city where you live, or maybe the place where you live. Mostly when you add the city, you find a wider variety of volunteers job dan wanneer je alleen maar je straat erbij doet. So vrijwilligerswerk Den Haag, for example, or vrijwilligerswerk Amsterdam, vrijwilligerswerk Haarlem, for example. So after you have found the perfect or the suiting volunteer job for you, you go out and fill the form. So on the form you see voornaam. Voornaam is your name. If you translate it, it literally means your first name. The first name, so voornaam, which is in my case Louisa. So voornaam, then you write your first name. Achternaam is your surname, so whatever your surname is, you state it there. And then have your address. Your address, that is where you live, of course. And then your postcode and your woonplaats. So your postal code and the place where you live. So, for example, Kalandplein nummer 21, 2513 CD in Den Haag. That can be your address, your postal code, and your woonplaats. Telephone number, so you fill out your telephone number. Sometimes, well, I think not even sometimes, mostly nowadays we fill out the 06 number because I know a lot of people don't have a house phone anymore. But if you still have your house phone, you can type in the number of your house phone, and you can also type in your cell phone number. Depends on which one you are easily reached on. And then email address because a lot of things are done digitally nowadays, so they prefer sending you an email so you can easily access it and easily get it than writing you at home. And then you have your geboortedatum. Sometimes they ask for geboorteplaats, depending on where exactly you're filling the form out for. They can ask for geboortedatum and geboorteplaats. So like I said, geboortedatum is your date of birth. So you have geboorte and datum, birth, date. And geboorteplaats is birthplace, so your place of birth. Geboorteplaats and geboortedatum. So there you fill out where you are born. Some are born here in the Netherlands, but some too are born, for example, in Ghana or in Somalia, in Eritrea, Morocco, Turkije. Depends on where you are born at. Hoogstgenoten opleiding is the highest education you have had. Some haven't gone further than primary school, so they just did primary school. For example, if you have gone to high school but you didn't complete it, but you did complete primary school, then still high school is your highest education because you went to high school, so you can state that as your highest education. And then mostly they also ask you to write a little piece about yourself. Mostly it says vertel over yourself, so write something about yourself, or a profile, like give them a profile of yourself, your capabilities and all of that. So these are all things that are stated on a vrijwilligersformulier. So mostly after you have filled out a form like that, you send it to the place that it's supposed to go to. Oftentimes you can just go to the place and hand it over to them, but sometimes they will ask you to email it to them, and then you have to, if you have printed it out, you have to then scan it again and then send it to them. But if not, you can just do it via PDF and forward it to them. And after you have done that, mostly they will invite you for a conversation to elaborate more about yourself. Ze gaan je dan uitnodigen voor een gesprek. En daarbij het gesprek ga je meer over jezelf vertellen. Dus je gaat meer vertellen over wat je allemaal kan, wat je kwaliteiten zijn, waarom zou je daar willen werken als vrijwilliger en per wanneer jij zou kunnen beginnen. So during a conversation like this, it's more of an interview, because doing a volunteer's job is the same thing as working and getting paid for it. Sometimes you get compensation for it. It's not always that you get compensation for volunteer's job, but sometimes too you can get compensation for it. But the process is the same way as applying for a regular job. When you're applying for a regular job too, you have to fill out a form, you have to even turn in your CV. Sometimes for volunteer job too, they ask for your CV. They can ask for a CV as well. So it differs where exactly you're going to do the volunteer's job. Sometimes they'll ask you for a CV, sometimes they won't. But they'll definitely ask you to fill out a form to let them know your highest education, your date of birth, place of birth, your woonadres, your woonplaats, telefoonnummer, e-mailadres, voornaam, je achternaam. And one thing I nearly forgot is whether you are a male or a female. Dus of the heer of mevrouw. Dus the heer of mevrouw, so Mr. or Mrs. depending on what you are. So you have to state that as well. So when they call you in for a meeting or an interview, that's where they ask you what your capabilities are, maybe how many hours you'll be able to work. But there are also instances where you are given an amount of hours to work, so that always depends on where exactly you're going to do the volunteer's job. So you basically just get the chance based on the form that you fill out to elaborate more on wat jij wilt gaan doen daar als vrijwilliger. So once again, the ways to get a volunteer's job is by looking online, or if you know someone personally, you can just ask the person, or if you have the idea that maybe the school where your child goes to is looking for volunteer mothers, you can also apply there. Or maybe the church that you attend are looking for volunteers, you can also apply there. Or maybe the buurthuis, so the neighborhood center where your child or yourself goes to, if they're looking for volunteers, you can also apply there. There are also cases whereby, let's say if you take an uitkering, als je een uitkering neemt, dan kan het zijn dat de UWV, so the UWV can then ask you to do a volunteer's job. In that case, they are the one that look for places for you and fill out the forms and do all the extra work on your behalf. So with that one, you don't have to do it yourself. But when you are asked to do it yourself, these are the steps that you have to take. Like I said, it differs per time what the steps are, but overall, this is the normal format of how a form looks like. I hope that you can see it when you're watching me live on Facebook. It has your voornaam, je achternaam, je adres, je postcode / woonplaats, telefoonnummer, je adres, je geboortedatum, je e-mailadres, hoogst opgenoten opleiding en vertel ons een beetje over yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself. So these are some of the things that comes with applying for a volunteer's job. I think mostly when Ghanaians, for example, hear about volunteer's job, they automatically see it as a burden. But it is not a burden at all. And why am I saying this is because you get to learn a lot during volunteer's job. For example, if you're doing a volunteer's job at your child's school, you get to spend more time with your child, and you also get to know the school and the systems a lot better. You get to know the school that your child is going to and their system a lot better. If it's with the church too, you get to know the church a lot better from a different perspective than only visiting on the Sundays. If it's also at the Broodhuis, you also get to know the Broodhuis. You also get to know what the Broodhuis has for the neighborhood, so their ideas and their thoughts for the neighborhoods. You get to know all of these things purely by doing volunteers job. So doing volunteers job is not necessarily a burden or something negative. It can also be a very positive and impactful thing. Plus, it is better than just being at home and not doing anything. You are impacting other people's lives, but you're also impacting your own life. So it is very good to do volunteers job. You're helping the community with it. Sometimes if you go and do volunteers job at an elderly home, you have to know that it brings them also a lot of joy to see so many nice people coming there to help them. Het is ook leuk om bij een ouderenhuis te gaan werken als vrijwilliger, omdat zij daar heel blij van worden om zoveel mensen te zien die daar komen om hun ook blij te maken. Dus vrijwilligerswerk is niet per definitie iets negatiefs. Nee, het kan heel positief en heel impactvol zijn. Het kan heel veel invloed op je hebben, heel invloedrijk zijn. So impactful is invloedrijk. Het kan heel invloedrijk zijn en het kan jou helpen om een betere mens voor jezelf te worden, maar ook voor je gemeenschap. Zoals ik een voorbeeld gaf, als je bijvoorbeeld op de school van je kind vrijwilligerswerk gaat doen, dan zie jij hoe je kind daar op school is. Je brengt meer tijd met je kind door, maar je leert ook het systeem van de school beter kennen. Dus vrijwilligerswerk is niet altijd iets negatiefs. Het kan ook iets heel positiefs zijn. Dus je moet altijd proberen om het goede kant ervan in te zien als je vrijwilligerswerk gaat doen. We gaan met een kleine pauze. We're just going to go on a short break and then we will be back with more. So don't change the channel to anywhere. This is Let's Speak Dutch with Louisa. Yes, nogmaals een hele goede middag en welkom bij Let's Speak Dutch met Lovisa. Before the break, we learned about how to apply for a volunteer's job both online as in person. So when you know someone, or maybe when an institution directs you to a place to do a volunteer's job. So if there are any questions on this subject, just feel free to call us and ask whatever question that you want to ask concerning applying for a volunteer's job. And you can call us on 07073 70507, 07073 70507. You can also call us on our WhatsApp line, which is +31 6840 75266. +31 684 075 266. Well, since we are saying the telephone number in Dutch, let's learn how to count in Dutch. Let's learn how to count in Dutch. Today we're going to learn how to count in Dutch as well. So apart from knowing how to apply for a volunteer's job, we're also going to learn how to count. Yes. So let's start. Yep, één, which is 1. So I won't translate every little number that I pronounce, but at least I'm going to go in that order so you know that één is 1, 2 is 2, and so forth. So één, 2. If you're home, try and count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Dus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is 1 up to 10. 1 tot en met 10. And then you continue with 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Dus 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So that is 1 up to 20. And the funny thing about the Dutch language is when you're counting from 21 going, you know, in English you say 21. So first you say 20 and then you say 1. But in Dutch it's the other way around. So first you say 1 and then you say 20, for example. So 21, 22, 23 and 20. So 3 and 20, 2 and 20, 1 and 20. Dus 1 en 20, 2 en 20, 3 en 20. So 1 and 20, 2 and 20, 3 and 20. That is how it basically goes. So in Dutch, you don't say the biggest number before the smaller. So 21, like you say in English, zoals je het in Engels zegt. Maar in Nederlands zeg je eerst een kleine getal en daarna pas komt het grote getal. Dus 21, 35, 32, 41. So first you say the smaller and then you add the bigger number to it. So we've learned 20. Now I'm just going to jump from 10, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way up to 100. And then when you want to say one by one, for example, 50 or 51, you say 1 en 50. So like 63, for example, 3 and 60. So you have to just learn how to say the basics, and when you have, once you have the basics, it's easier to connect the two with each other. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. 10, 10, 20, 20, 30, 30, 40, 40, 50, 50, 60, 60, 70, 70, 80, 80, 90, 90, 100, 100. So then you can have 1 en 20, 1 en 30, 1 en 40, 1 en 50, 1 en 60, 1 en 70, 2 en 80, 3 en 90 en dan heb je 100. But then when it comes to 100, the counting changes. So it's 101, so 101, 102, 103, all the way up to 120. And then once you get to 20 again, it's 101 and 20, 102 and 20, 103 and 20. So after getting to 100, 100, 200, 300 and so forth, when it's between 0 and 20, you first say the smaller numbers. So for example, 211 is 211. It's not 11 and 200, it's 211. But once you pass 20, then you say it backwards again. Dus 221, 222, 223. When it comes to the bigger numbers, so after from 100 going, you still maintain the 100. So the 100 is the first one that you say, and then the others you do it the way I just explained. Dus 231, 212, 351, 313, 473, 405. But then when it comes to before 100, so let's say 90, 80, 70, 60 and going upwards all the way up to 20, it's 73, then the 70 comes behind the 3. But after 100, first you have the 100 and then you pronounce the others the way I just explained. So let's one more time go through the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. En dan ga ik verder. 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900 en dan heb je 1000 als laatste. Dan heb je 1000 als laatste. We gaan weer met een korte pauze. En dan wanneer wij terugkomen gaan wij leren over de tijd. Hoe laat is het? So we're going to go on a short break. And when we come back we're going to learn about time. What is the time? How do you tell time in Dutch? So once again, let your frequency stay here. This is Let's Be Dutch with Louisa at Red FM at GhanaToday.com. Yes, nogmaals een hele goede middag iedereen en welkom terug bij Let's Speak Dutch met Louisa. Voor de pauze hebben wij geleerd over de getallen, de numbers, hoe je 1 tot en met 1000 moet tellen. En we hebben ook geleerd hoe je kan aanmelden voor vrijwilligerswerk. En nu gaan wij leren over tijd. We're going to learn about time. How can you tell time in Dutch? How do you tell time in Dutch? But I'm going to give the let's say the main ways of telling time. Of course, between 15, 30, 35, 40 and 40, sorry, 15, 30, 45 and 0. There are numbers in between, but the main ones are quarter for, quarter over, half, so quarter to, quarter past, 30 minutes past, 15 minutes to, and so forth. That is what we are going to learn today. So when it's, for example, we're going to take 11 as our base today. So 11 o'clock, we're going to take that as our base today. So 11 o'clock is 11 uur. 11 uur. 12 uur, 1 uur, depending on what time it is. But like I said, 11 o'clock is the time that we're going to take as our base today. So 11 uur. And then when it's 10 minutes past 11, 10 over 11. So when it's past the hour, you say over. So for example, even 7 minutes past the hour, 7 over 11. So past the hour is over. And then you have kwart over, which means 15 minutes. So kwart is 15 minutes. You can also say 15 over 11, or you can say kwart over 11. So 15 over 11 or kwart over 11, both are good. 20 minutes past 11 is 20 over 11. 20 over 11. There's also another way, but I'll try not to complicate things today, so I'll just keep it at the basics. 20 over 11, which means it's 20 minutes past the hour of 11. And then you have 11:30. So in English we will say 11:30, but in Dutch, when you reach half the hour, you refer to the next hour. So instead of saying half 11, as in 30 minutes past 11, you say half 12, which is 30 minutes to 12. So when you have reached half, so when you reach 30 minutes, you jump to the next hour. So 11:30 will be half 12. 30 minutes to 12. That's what it literally means. In English you can say it like that too, but I think in English we commonly say 11:30 instead of 30 minutes to 12. But in Dutch they prefer, or they say 30 minutes to 12 instead of 11:30. 11:30. You can say 11:30 as well, but what is commonly said is 30 minutes to 12, which is half 12. And then 11:40 is 20 minuten voor 12. 20 voor 12, which means there's 20 minutes left before it is 12. Je kan ook 11:40 zeggen of 40 minuten over 11. So you can say 40 minuten over 11, or you can say 20 voor half 12. So everything before 30 minutes, so from 0 up to 30 is over. From 30 back to 0 is 4. So over 1 hour, and then before the other hour. I hope that makes sense to everyone. So everything before the 30 minutes is over the hour. So for example, 11:20 is 11:20. There's, like I said, there's another way too, but I will keep it simple for today because maybe we'll get a little too much. 20 over 11, which is 20 minutes past 11. But once it's 11:40, that is 20 minuten or 20 voor 12. So then you jump to the next hour. And then you have 11:45, which is kwart voor 12, 15 minutes to 12. You can also say 11:45, which is also correct. No one will say that is wrong, but the right way or the normal way is 11:45, and then 11:50 is 10:45, and 12 uur, once it's reached 12 o'clock, is 12 uur. So 12 o'clock is 12 uur. 11:50 is 10:4. So like I said, everything after 30 is 4. Everything before 30 is over. Everything after 30 is 4. Everything before 30 is over. So 11:15 is 11:15. 11:45 is 11:45. Then you jump to the next hour, as I explained. I hope that is clear for everyone, but if not, you can always contact us. You can also always rewatch this video on YouTube. We always play it back on YouTube as well, so don't hesitate to also go on YouTube to watch this video if you want to learn more about speaking Dutch. So we're about to round off for today. Before then, let's repeat some of the things that we have learned for today. Today we learned how to register voor volunteers job. Als je wilt registreren of aanmelden voor vrijwilligerswerk, hoe je dat moet doen. Hoe je zo'n formulier moet invullen. Met je voornaam, je achternaam, je adres. Of je nou een man of een vrouw bent, een meneer of een mevrouw, de heer of mevrouw. Je postcode en je woonplaats, je telefoonnummer, je e-mailadres, je geboortedatum, geboorteplaats, je hoogst genoten opleiding, which is highest education, and vertel over yourself. Tell us a bit about yourself. We also learned how to pronounce the numbers. So we learned from 1 up to 100 properly, and then 1,000 as well. So as I explained when it came to that, after 20, you first pronounce the smaller number and then the big one. So for example, 21, 43, 4 and 50. But then when you get to 100, the 100 comes, or 100, 200, 300, regardless of what it is, it comes before the numbers follow after. And then we've also learned how to tell time. Hoe laat is het? What is the time? So when someone asks you hoe laat is het, you can just look and say, het is nu 2:50, or het is 20 over, nou in mijn geval is het 23 over 2, so 1, 23 over 1, or 10:45. So those are the two ways that I can say the time right now. So when it's before 30 minutes, from 0 to 30, it's over. When it's 30 to 0, it's 4. So after 30, you refer to the next hour. You don't refer back to the current hour, you refer to the next hour. So 11:30 is 11:12. 11:12, 30 minutes to 12. 10:30 is 11:11, 30 minutes to 11. 1:30 is 12:30, 30 minutes to 2. So that is how you tell time in Dutch. Next week we will come back and learn something new again. I hope that today's session was very educative to you all. Like I said, you can definitely rewatch it on YouTube. From tomorrow it will be live on YouTube. You can also follow our podcast. So for example, if you're working and you don't have time to sit and watch the YouTube channel, you can also follow the podcast, and that you can do through AfroEuro.org. So when you go to AfroEuro.org, you can just watch us live, or sorry, listen to us live there through the podcast, and hopefully learn something out of it. So thank you very much for today, for spending time with me, and hopefully see you all next week. Voor nu zeg ik doei doei!